Imagine being so wealthy that you accidentally destroy an entire country's economy just by passing through. Not through war, not through conquest, but through generosity. In 1324, one man did exactly that. His name was Mansa Musa, and by the time he was done with his journey, he'd crashed the gold market for over a decade, put Africa on the map of European consciousness, and become possibly the wealthiest human being who ever lived. This isn't a legend, this isn't mythology. Every single detail I'm about to tell you is documented by eyewitnesses, recorded by historians, and still studied by economists today. So buckle up, because this story will completely change how you think about medieval Africa, global economics, and the very concept of wealth itself. Let's begin. The year is 1312 AD. While Europe struggles through what historians call the calamitous 14th century, dealing with famine, warfare, and the approaching Black Death that will kill 1/3 of its population, a different story unfolds in West Africa. A new king ascends to the throne of the Mali Empire. His name is Musa, Mansa Musa. Mansa meaning emperor or king of kings in the Mandinka language. Now here's where it gets interesting, and I want you to really grasp this because most people have no idea. The Mali Empire at its peak controlled territory spanning what is now Mali, Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, Mauritania, and beyond. We're talking about an area roughly the size of Western Europe. But size wasn't what made Mali special. It was what lay beneath the ground: gold. According to historical estimates, Mali controlled over half of the world's gold supply during Mansa Musa's reign. Think about that for a second. Half the world's gold. At a time when gold was the global currency, when European kingdoms fought wars over gold mines, when gold determined your power, your prestige, your ability to field armies and build civilizations, and one man controlled half of it. But here's what most people miss. Mansa Musa wasn't just sitting on a pile of gold like some dragon from a fairy tale. He was smart, educated, strategic. He spoke Arabic fluently. He studied Islamic law. He understood trade routes, taxation systems, political alliances. This wasn't some random lucky king. This was a sophisticated ruler managing a complex empire. And in 1324, 12 years into his reign, he made a decision that would change history. He would perform the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca that all Muslims are supposed to make at least once in their lifetime. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so he went on a religious trip, so what? Oh, my friend, you have no idea what's coming. When Mansa Musa traveled, he didn't just grab a backpack and hop on a camel. Let me paint you a picture of what this journey actually looked like. 60,000 people. That's right, 60,000 people in his caravan. For context, that's bigger than most medieval European armies. 12,000 of these were personal servants and slaves, all dressed in Persian silk. 500 heralds walked at the front of the caravan. Each one carried a golden staff weighing 500 mithqals. That's about 4.25 grams per mithqal, so we're talking roughly 2 kilograms of solid gold per staff. Do the math. That's a full metric ton of gold just in staffs held by his heralds. But wait, there's more. 80 to 100 camels. Each camel carried 300 pounds. That's 136 kilograms of gold dust. Let's do that math too. At a minimum, we're talking about 10,880 kilograms of gold. That's nearly 11 metric tons of gold being transported across the Sahara Desert. In 2024 dollars, adjusted for inflation, that's roughly $400 million worth of gold. And that's just what the camels were carrying. That doesn't count what Musa himself had, what his officials had, what was in the treasury back home. One contemporary source said he was so determined to display his magnificence that his caravan stretched as far as the eye could see, and he was about to use every ounce of it. July 1324, Cairo, Egypt. Picture this.
You're a resident of Cairo, one of the most important cities in the medieval Islamic world. It's a Tuesday. You're going about your business, and then you hear it. A rumble, distant at first, then growing louder. You look toward the edge of the city, and you see them coming. 60,000 people, hundreds of camels, an ocean of gold glinting in the desert sun. And at the center of it all, Mansa Musa, draped in gold, radiating wealth on a scale Cairo has never seen. The city goes absolutely insane. Now, Mansa Musa is supposed to meet with the Sultan of Egypt, Al-Malik al-Nasir Muhammad, but there's a problem. Court protocol requires anyone meeting the Sultan to kiss the ground and then kiss the Sultan's hand. Musa refuses. This could have become a massive diplomatic incident. War has been declared over less. But Musa is clever. He says, "I prostrate only to God who created me." And then he prostrates himself in prayer, which satisfies the requirement of bowing without actually bowing to the Sultan. The Sultan, recognizing both Musa's diplomatic skill and the fact that this man commands an army's worth of people and holds unimaginable wealth, accepts this compromise. The meeting is a success. And then Mansa Musa does something that will echo through history for the next 700 years. He starts giving gold away. Not in small amounts, not strategically. He gives it to everyone. Poor people in the streets, here's gold. Merchants in the marketplace, here's gold. Government officials, here's gold. Scholars, here's gold. Court members, here's gold. Literally, anyone who enters his presence walks away with gold. One contemporary historian named Al-Omari, writing just 12 years after Musa's visit, interviewed people who were there. One source told him, "This man spread upon Cairo the flood of his generosity. There was no person who did not receive a sum of gold from him." The people of Cairo earned incalculable sums from him. For 3 months, Mansa Musa stayed in Cairo, spending and giving away gold like water. And then, something unprecedented happened. The gold market collapsed. Here's how it worked. Economics 101. When you flood a market with supply, the value drops. Gold was the currency. When there's suddenly tons of it everywhere, its purchasing power plummets. Prices skyrocketed. The contemporary accounts say prices rocketed as everyone tried to pay in depreciated gold. The value of gold in Cairo fell from 25 dirhams per mithqal to just 22 dirhams. That might not sound like much, but in medieval economics, that's catastrophic. Merchants couldn't conduct business, trade routes faltered, the Egyptian economy was in crisis, and it lasted for 12 years. Think about that. One man's 3-month visit caused a recession that lasted over a decade. Modern economists studying Mansa Musa's pilgrimage call it the first recorded instance of inflation caused by a single person. Milton Friedman's theory of monetary inflation, which says that inflation is caused when the money supply grows faster than economic output, can be perfectly illustrated by what Mansa Musa did in Cairo. But here's where the story gets even better. On his way back from Mecca, Mansa Musa passes through Cairo again, and people are panicking. Oh no, he's back! Is he going to destroy our economy again? But Musa has heard what happened, and being the sophisticated administrator he is, he realizes he screwed up. So he does something extraordinary. He borrows back as much gold as he can from Cairo's moneylenders, at interest rates so high they'd make modern loan sharks blush. This removes gold from circulation, stabilizing the price. The economy begins to recover. Egyptian moneylenders are thrilled. They're making a fortune on interest. And then, when Mansa Musa gets back to Mali, he pays back the entire debt, all at once, plus interest, in a single massive payment. And the gold market crashes again. In one pilgrimage, Mansa Musa ruined, repaired, and ruined again the gold economy of Africa, the Middle East, and by extension, Europe. His international prestige absolutely exploded. Word spread across the Islamic world, then to the Mediterranean, then to Europe. And in 1375, 51 years after Musa's journey, Spanish cartographers created something remarkable, the Catalan Atlas, one of the most important medieval maps ever made. And there, prominently displayed on the map of Africa, sits Mansa Musa. He's shown on a golden throne, wearing a golden crown, holding a golden orb in one hand and a golden scepter in the other. The caption reads, "This Moorish ruler is named Musa Meli, Lord of Guinea. This king is the richest and noblest of all these lands due to the abundance of gold that is extracted from his lands." This is huge. Let me explain why. Medieval European maps mostly showed Africa as blank space. They didn't know what was there. They didn't care. Africa was the edge of the world to them. But suddenly, there's this African king featured as prominently as European monarch.
For the first time, Europeans realized there's an African empire richer than any Christian kingdom. An empire they don't control. An empire they don't understand. An empire that doesn't need them for anything. And that terrified them. Because it shattered the narrative. Europe saw itself as the center of civilization, Christianity as the one true faith giving legitimacy to power. And here's this Muslim African king with more wealth than the Pope, the King of France, and the Holy Roman Emperor combined. Some historians argue this was one of the seeds that would later drive European exploration of Africa, not just for spices or land, but because they'd heard the legends of African gold and wanted to control it. But let's get back to Mansa Musa, because the story isn't over. He returns to Mali transformed by his pilgrimage, and he brings an army of intellectuals with him. Architects from Andalusia, the Islamic region of Spain known for stunning architecture. Scholars from Cairo, one of the intellectual capitals of the Islamic world. Books, thousands of books on law, medicine, astronomy, mathematics, philosophy. Mansa Musa invests his wealth into something revolutionary: education. He transforms Timbuktu into a center of learning that rivals any university in Europe or the Middle East. The Sankore Mosque, built around 1300 and expanded under Musa's patronage, becomes Sankore University, one of the oldest universities in the world. At its peak in the 15th and 16th centuries, Sankore had up to 25,000 students. 25,000. Students studied Islamic law, yes, but also astronomy, mathematics, medicine, logic, rhetoric. The University of Timbuktu, composed of 3 main mosques, including Sankore, becomes legendary. Contemporary accounts say that books became the most profitable trade item in Timbuktu, more valuable than gold. One chronicle records that a king bought a dictionary for the price of 2 horses. Scholars accumulated private libraries with over 1,600 manuscripts each. Today, historians estimate that between 400,000 and 700,000 manuscripts survived from medieval Timbuktu. 400,000 to 700,000. While Europe was burning books during religious conflicts, Mali was preserving them. While European literacy was confined to clergy and nobility, Mali was building an educated society. The manuscripts covered everything: astronomy, where scholars tracked the movements of stars relative to seasons; medicine, including surgical techniques and herbal remedies; law, with detailed legal opinions on complex cases; philosophy, poetry, mathematics. Leo Africanus, a famous traveler who visited Timbuktu in 1526, wrote, "Here are great store of doctors, judges, priests, and other learned men that are bountifully maintained at the king's cost and charges, and hither are brought diverse manuscripts or written books out of Barbary, which are sold for more money than any other merchandise." This was a civilization at its intellectual peak, and Europe had no idea. Or rather, they'd heard rumors, but they couldn't quite believe them, because it contradicted everything they'd told themselves about Africa. So why did Mali fall? Because nothing lasts forever. Mansa Musa died in 1337. Some sources say 1332. The exact date is disputed. His successors didn't have his skill, or his discipline, or his vision. Internal disputes weakened central authority. The Songhai Empire to the east began to rise. The Mossi from the south raided Timbuktu multiple times. Trade routes shifted. The trans-Saharan gold trade declined as Europeans began maritime exploration, finding new routes and new resources. By the 15th century, Mali's dominance faded. The Songhai Empire conquered Timbuktu in 1468. Mali became a tributary state. But even as the political empire collapsed, the intellectual legacy survived. Those manuscripts, that tradition of learning, the universities, they endured. Until 1991, when Moroccan forces invaded, defeated Songhai at the Battle of Tundibi, and began a brutal occupation. Many scholars, including the famous Ahmad Baba, sometimes called the African Renaissance man, were arrested and deported to Morocco, along with their manuscript collections. Timbuktu's golden age ended. And then came European colonization. The French took control of Mali in 1893. Arabic education was suppressed. French was imposed as the main language. Manuscript collections were neglected, sold off, or destroyed. For centuries, the story of Mansa Musa and the Mali Empire was nearly forgotten, or worse, deliberately erased from European narratives of history, because it didn't fit the story they wanted to tell. But here's the thing about truth. It has a way of surviving. Those manuscripts survived. Families in Timbuktu preserved them for generations, passing them down like sacred treasures. In 2012, when Islamist rebels took control of Timbuktu, they planned to destroy the manuscripts, seeing them as heretical. But the people of Timbuktu smuggled them out. Thousands of manuscripts, hidden in metal trunks, transported secretly to Bamako, Mali's capital. Today, scholars are digitizing and studying these manuscripts. The University of Timbuktu's legacy is being rediscovered, and Mansa Musa's story is finally being told. So let's talk about the numbers, the big question everyone wants answered. How wealthy was Mansa Musa really? Time magazine famously said, "There's really no way to put an accurate number on his wealth." But economists have tried. Conservative estimates put his wealth at over $400 billion in today's dollars. Some estimates go much higher, into the trillions. For comparison, Jeff Bezos at his peak around $200 billion, Elon Musk at his peak around $250 billion. John D. Rockefeller, adjusted for inflation, estimates range from $4.6 trillion to $5 trillion. Most historians place Mansa Musa somewhere in that upper tier, potentially the wealthiest individual human being in recorded history. But here's what's fascinating. His wealth wasn't just personal fortune, it was national wealth. Mali's GDP during Musa's reign was staggering for the medieval period. The empire's control of gold and salt trade, plus taxation of conquered territories, plus agricultural production from fertile lands. We're talking about an economy powerhouse. And Musa used that wealth not just for personal luxury, but to build institutions that would outlast him. That's the real story. Not just that he had gold, but that he understood what to do with it. So what's the legacy? What does Mansa Musa's story teach us? First, Africa had sophisticated, wealthy, powerful civilizations long before European colonization. The narrative of Africa as primitive or backward is demonstrably false. Second, the medieval Islamic world was a hub of learning, science, and culture. While Europe went through its dark ages, Africa and the Middle East were in a golden age of scholarship. Third, economy power is temporary, but cultural and intellectual legacy can endure. Mali's political power faded, but those manuscripts, that tradition of learning, the universities, they endured. Fourth, history is written by the powerful.
For centuries, European historians minimized or ignored African achievements because it didn't serve their interests. Only now are we recovering the full story. And finally, wealth means nothing without wisdom. Mansa Musa could have hoarded his gold. Instead, he invested in education, architecture, culture. He built something that mattered. That's why his story still resonates 700 years later, because we still grapple with these questions. What do we do with power? How do we use wealth? What legacy do we leave behind? Mansa Musa answered those questions in a way that literally put him on the map. And his answer, invest in knowledge, support learning, build institutions that outlast you, is still relevant today. So the next time someone tells you Africa had no great civilizations, no centers of learning, no sophisticated societies before European colonization, tell them about Mansa Musa, the man who was so wealthy he accidentally broke Egypt's economy, the man who built universities when Europe was still burning books, the man who made a pilgrimage so legendary that it's still studied by historians and economists 700 years later. The man who proved that true wealth isn't measured in gold. It's measured in what you build that lasts. If this story changed how you think about medieval Africa, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into forgotten history, and drop a comment. What surprised you most about Mansa Musa's story? Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.